Among all the members of one-hit wonders of the 90s that faded to obscurity, few have had as much ongoing success as Roger Clyne and PH Naffa of the group The Refreshments. The band was born out of the members feeling disenchanted with grunge and alternative music with its nihilistic overtones, set out to combine their influences of country and punk rock. The result was that of a band that became known primarily for 3 songs, the hits Banditos, Down Together, and most famously the King of the Hill theme song, sometimes referred to as Yahoos and Triangles. So whatever happened to the band? Well, The Refreshments is a band whose story deals with corporate struggles, drugs, as well as rebirth. The story of The Refreshments begins with frontman and guitarist Roger Clyne, who was born in 1968. His parents both attended University of Arizona, lived in Tucson. When he was just a few years old, his family relocated to Tempe, and his parents always played country music around him. Clyne's first band in high school was a group called Paris. He remarked how he wanted to play punk and the other guys in the band wanted to play metal, so he referred to that group's sound as schizophrenic. Then he was in a group called Bohemian Holiday Club. Clyne fronted these groups in his early days, but as he was learning to become a frontman, he started to wear a guitar because it made him feel less naked. He also tried to get away from those country music influences of his childhood, telling the interviewer, "In my rebellion, I wanted to leave that behind and pick up Lords of the New Church, Sex Pistols, Violent Femmes, the punk rock stuff." Over time, though, Clyne combined these punk rock influences with his early country music influences and added mariachi music as well. And he came up with a style that lasted his entire career. Clyne had done an ethnography study in Ensenada, Mexico through Arizona State University's anthropology department. He chose to study mariachi and learned a lot about Mexican music during this study abroad program. He added to the Arizona Central, "I've traveled extensively through Mexico because I love it. Family is always central, and I just love the country. There's a certain poise and refinement to the Mexican culture that I really love." Clyne enrolled at Arizona State University after high school while still playing in bands, jumping from program to program, originally going from liberal arts to fine arts. He failed music theory twice, and while music theory didn't seem to be up his alley, he got an education in music from being active in the music scene in Tempe, a scene that was dominated by groups like Gin Blossoms, Dead Hot Workshop, and the Pistoleros. While attending ASU in Tempe, Roger linked up with Arthur "Buddy" Eugene, who played bass, and guitarist Brian Blush. They rounded out their lineup with Dusty Denim on drums. The Plain Dealer newspaper claimed that it was a poker game where the budding musicians finally met and started jamming together. Clyne told the paper, "We were all out of band, as you might say, out of music work. We just got together in someone's basement for cards, and then we noticed a lot of instruments around, so of course we jammed together." The guys all knew Camper Van Beethoven songs and started jamming to Eye of Fatima. Then they jammed to the Violent Femmes' Kiss Off and Cheap Trick's Surrender. They decided that they should do something together musically. According to Blush, the members had all migrated to Tempe and had already played in their fair share of failed bands. The quartet started playing shows under the moniker All You Can Eat. At their first gig at Long Wong's in January of '94, they passed out bags of Funyuns, while some other publications claimed they also handled yoo-hoos at subsequent gigs. A month later, they debuted the song that would eventually put them on the map, Banditos. It was at a venue called Hollywood Alley where they premiered the song for the first time. But we'll talk more about its synthesis later on. The band soon changed their name to Pop Enema after learning a more established band called All You Can Eat already existed in San Diego. When the band was rehearsing and coming up with the song Down Together, which also ended up on the Refreshments' debut record, guitarist Brian Blush remarked, "Man, that sounds like a Pop Enema." The other members looked at him and said, "That would be a great band name." Their early shows saw them wear shower caps as well as water wings on stage. The group's live shows became notorious for being drunken and rowdy, as well as consisting of silly banter, as well as sloppy playing. The quartet soon came up with a moniker that stuck, the Refreshments, by March of '94. Blush didn't like this new name as well, but Clyne bribed him with a bottle of painkillers to get his approval for the name change. That exchange was sad foreshadowing what was to further come down the road for the band. The Refreshments didn't have an image of what subgenre of rock they fit in, with Blush telling the Hamilton Spectator, "We weren't this angst-driven bunch of kids who wrote songs as an outlet of frustration. We were more inclined to run off to Mexico and generally have good fun." The Refreshments put out a record called Wheelie independently in late '94. It featured many of the songs that would end up on the group's major label debut 2 years later. But this independent release became a hot commodity in their hometown of Tempe, and soon enough their album was flying off record store shelves. According to the Plain Dealer newspaper, some record store clerks were being offered $50 to $75 by customers to snag a copy of it. Clyne even claimed in the same interview he was offered $200 for a signed copy. The Refreshments were soon packing clubs, with lineups stretching outside of the venues, with the Arizona Republic claiming that the Refreshments earned a bigger local following than Gin Blossoms did in their early days. Soon enough, Epiphany Records head Brad Singer offered to distribute the record, and the group soon signed a deal with the label. Funny enough, the deal was signed on a cocktail napkin. Marcy Drexler of the ASCAP, or the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers, also came along offering to book the band on showcases to get major record label attention in the cities of Nashville, Memphis, and Austin. In 1994, the band entered the Ticketmaster National Music Search along with 7,000 other bands. Clyne told the Plain Dealer, "And for some reason we kept winning. We finally took the big prize. Maybe because we were the only group that wasn't alternative grunge. We felt at the start we'd either lose or win everything. Frankly, the contest didn't help us win a contract, but it did help us play under pressure, and we found what the national scene was like." But some detractors told the Refreshments that they weren't marketable. The band had encountered a sort of reluctance and disbelief that the type of music that they played could be popular. Clyne told the Plain Dealer, "We were called by one person too pop for radio, which we think is great." That's hilarious. It sounds like an oxymoron. Despite the naysayers, following their performance at South by Southwest in Austin, the band were soon being courted by multiple labels, opting to sign with Mercury through their rep Peter Lubin. Lubin seemed to me the most genuine out of all the A&R people that the group had met, and Lubin was in the process of moving from RCA to Mercury Records, and he'd already heard the group's debut album, but it was their live show that convinced him to sign the band, telling the LA Times, "The minute I saw them, I honestly thought they were perfection. They possess an extremely strong repertoire of skills for such a young band, and even though they present themselves as clownish and goofy, there's an undeniable depth to these guys." The band was soon flown to New York and signed a deal with Mercury in 1995. With a major label backing them, the song Psychosis from Wheelie was licensed for use on the American Werewolf in Paris film soundtrack. They then re-recorded many of the songs from Wheelie for their first major label debut, Fizzy, Fuzzy, Big, and Buzzy, including the hit Banditos. The album covered topics including lost love, chance encounters, and fun. In 1995, original drummer Dustin "Dusty" Denham left the group and was replaced by Paul P.H. Naffa, who was played in the local band Rain Convention. Naffa ended up contributing greatly to the songwriting of the group going forward. As for arguably one of their best known songs, Banditos, it's a tale of a dash across the Mexican border to rob a store. It's a song that even name drops Jean-Luc Picard from Star Trek The Next Generation, a show that was immensely popular, and it just recently ended its initial run. It was meant to be the group's version of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Blush told the Hamilton Spectator that the band joked about knocking off a convenience store and safely making it back to the border before they were caught, with Blush adding, "We figured it would be more beneficial to actually write a song about it than actually do it." Clyne was in college and flat broke when he wrote it one morning over coffee. He was putting together both the chords and the words as his roommates laughed along to the fantasy of getting easy money by robbing a store or gas station. It was then that his brother walked into the house and announced the world is full of stupid people because of a frustration with a car accident he had just gotten into. Roger put that lyric into the song and the hit was created. Everybody knows if the world is full of stupid people, so meet me. They didn't realize at the time how big the song would become. In fact, when it came time to pick the lead single for Fizzy, the band had to choose between Banditos and Blue Collar Suicide by flipping a coin.
The mission at midnight will divvy up there.
Mercury wanted a video for the song, so the band threw a cake party for fans at Papago Park, which spans parts of both Phoenix and Tempe, and filmed themselves playing to an excited crowd. Even Roger Clyne's dad, Doc, was recruited to play the part of the sheriff in the video, and it was Doc who found the old-fashioned cop vehicle he drove in the video as well. He had seen it in the front of a used car lot and asked if he could borrow it for the video. They told him he could use it if he could get the car running, which he managed to do. The video is as fun as the song, and it was soon played quite frequently on MTV's 120 Minutes, a show that the band even got to host themselves. The band also admitted to the Hamilton Spectator that they tried to contact Patrick Stewart, who plays Jean-Luc Picard, to be in the Banditos video, but things didn't work out. It turned out he was in London and couldn't do the video. So next they tried to contact William Shatner, and he flat out said no. Blush added to the same paper while taking a shot at Shatner's refusal. We figured between the four of us that we had enough bad actors. The single Banditos went on to peak at number 14 on the Modern Rock Tracks chart and number 11 on the Mainstream Rock Tracks chart. It was also a crossover hit, peaking at number 70 on the Hot 100 chart. The second single, Down Together, peaked at number 38 on the Modern Rock Tracks chart.
Together, down together, let's go down.
Then around 1996 or 97, Fox Television put out a call for different bands and artists to come up with a theme song for a mid-season replacement show called King of the Hill. Blush recalled, Clyne had this little guitar riff, that kind of bonanza sounding thing, and I had this other piece of music, and we just fused them together at the sound check, and we thought this might work. The band was on tour at the time in Wichita, Kansas. The band won the theme submission over artists like Danny Elfman, as well as groups like Presidents of the United States of America, and even Fountains of Wayne was mentioned in one interview. But rocky times lay ahead for the group. Their label Mercury had just gotten bought by a bigger label who had different ideas for the band. Clyne told the Arizona Central, "They changed their work ethic with us. They wanted us to be more product than art, and it wasn't as much fun. We were chasing chart positions." Fizzy, Fuzzy, Big, and Buzzy was still selling quite strong, and the band had planned a tour in Asia and Australia in addition to wanting to put out a third single called Mekong. But those ideas were soon scrapped. Their label pushed the band back into the studio, wanting a quick turnaround on a subsequent album. The resulting album, The Bottle and Fresh Horses, saw a 1997 release, with critics noting a more mature and serious sounding record. Clyne told the Daily Oklahoman, "We didn't skirt any emotions on this record. The self-deprecation on the first record was fun, but I think in retrospect it was sort of a defense mechanism. We came at this record in a more honest fashion." The band also dealt with personal challenges during the recording of the album, as PH Nafa's mother died, as did Clyne's best friend, who passed away due to cystic fibrosis. But Clyne also became a father for the first time as well, and there were also flickers of the band's past sound with tracks like Dolly and Wanted. The name for the album came from a show that the members were watching while they were in the studio recording the album. It was a spaghetti western, and a cowboy walked into a saloon and said the following line, "Barkeep, give me a bottle and fresh horses for the men." Unfortunately, the album just didn't land with audiences. It was a commercial disappointment, and none of the singles charted. The two singles released from the record included Good Year and Wanted. Good Year almost never even made the record because it was so different from the band's other tunes. Blush had written it after a fight with his girlfriend, but Butthole Surfer's Paul Leary, who produced the record, pushed for the song to be included on the album, and the label chose to release it as the first single. Blush later told the Arizona Republic, "I still feel a heavy responsibility for that effort failing. It shouldn't have been a single. The label chose it as a single. The band never wanted it out." Following a Cinco de Mayo concert in 1998, the group's bassist Buddy Edwards left the group, and breakup rumors started swirling around the Refreshments. Then it later came out that Blush was dealing with drug addiction. He later recounted that at one point he was both the band's treasurer and had a $5,000 a week pain pill habit. The new president of Mercury Records let the Refreshments contract lapse in January of '98, and Blush was soon called into a band meeting and given a few months' notice to sort out his personal problems, but it seemed like things didn't change. Then on October 1st of 1998, the band issued a statement announcing they were done. Their bassist Buddy Edwards went on to pursue a writing career as the long touring had really worn him out. He has since published 3 novels, one of which was later adapted into a screenplay for the film Stuck Outside of Phoenix. With 2 members down, Roger and PH noticed that the Refreshments were probably done as a band. They formed the group Roger, Clyne, and the Peacemakers, and they went on to become the only act in music history to release 7 consecutive studio albums to land on the top 10 Billboard Internet sales charts from an independent label. They have such a loyal fan base that 2 of their 7 albums topped the charts, resulting in the head of Billboard calling up their manager and asking who this band was that was atop of their charts. The Refreshments, meanwhile, have reunited several times since their breakup in 2010, 2013, and 2016, with guitarist Brian Blush rejoining PH and Roger. In 2017, the band issued a documentary about their history called Here's to Life, the Story of the Refreshment. Eventually, Brian Blush got his life back together after spending a few years in and out of jail and rehabs. At one point, he even sold off his publishing to the Refreshments catalog and the King of the Hill theme for only $2,500. Since getting sober, he's of course reunited with the Refreshments and plays in a band called Luck and Trouble. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in Rock Culture Stories. Take care.